I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The harder I want to hit you.
I'm happy because of being here today. Fuck you.
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal, remember? I'll
anybody
drive.
to drive?
Get in the car.
Fucking shit. Fuck me in the fucking ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
I hate Peter Pan. Sorry, I had to do that, but hey everyone, it's Donji Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new movie review, and this movie review is going to be for 1991's Hook, which is basically Steven Spielberg's adaptation of the Peter Pan story-ish. Okay, not exactly an adaptation of the story itself, per se, but it's more of the version of, what if Peter Pan did grow up? What if Peter Pan made it back home? In a way, like, what if maybe the kids in Peter Pan's story never met Captain Hook? And what if Captain Hook had killed the alligator before even being eaten by the alligator himself? That's kind of it with this movie. So, what is the plot of Peter Pan? No, what's the plot of Hook? This movie's actually called Hook. So, Peter Pan is now grown up and played by the late Robin Williams, may he rest in peace. He's grown to be this cutthroat merger and acquisitions lawyer. He's married to Wendy's granddaughter, Moria, played by Carolyn Goodall, and Wendy, this one, is played by the late Maggie Smith, may she also rest in peace. And now, Captain Hook, who is played by Dustin Hoffman in one of Dustin Hoffman's best roles. Captain Hook then kidnaps his two children because he wants revenge on Peter Pan. And so, Peter Pan has returned to Neverland with Tinkerbell, played by Julia Roberts in this version. With the help of her and the Lost Boys, he must remember how to be Peter Pan again in order to save his children by battling Captain Hook once again. Yeah, so, as for my reaction to Hook, and I know I'll say this, as much as Steven Spielberg really does not like this movie and how it turned out, and it's one of his not well-received films, I would have to honestly disagree with a lot of the haters in Spielberg, because personally, I've always loved this movie, and I find it another one of Spielberg's best. And you know something? I honestly consider this the best Peter Pan film in my eyes. Yeah, I think it's better than the animated Disney film. I think the animated Disney film is one of Disney's most overrated films. I'm sorry. And another problem I have with the Disney film is that Disney basically treated the lead actor like trash and stabbed him in the back. Because once he grew up, they basically threw him out in the streets to die. In a way. Basically threw him out in the streets to become all homeless. So, that's one of the top reasons why, well, there are a few other reasons, but that is one of the major reasons why I don't like the Disney animated film. Knowing the backstory of how the voice actor for Peter Pan in that film, and they kind of reference it in Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and that was kind of a bad call they had with the villain in that film. And they kind of made his backstory like that, and they kind of referenced that. And so yeah, I kind of think this is better than that film, but if I kind of want to watch a good version of the actual Peter Pan story, there is Peter Pan from 2003, the live action Peter Pan from 2003. That to me is the version of the actual Peter Pan story I prefer. This is technically a Peter Pan adaptation, but it's not the one that we're all familiar with. It's kind of like an aftermath story of the actual story. I think that pieces are fantastic, like Captain Hook's ship. The writing storyline is fantastic. The late Robin Williams is some are split on the late Robin Williams' performance in this film, but I think he's terrific as this grown-up Peter Pan, and you know, Dustin Hoffman easily gives a killer performance as Captain Hook. Like, you can tell if Hoffman was having a ball playing this role. You can definitely see it. So how was Hook made? So it was in the early 1980s when Steven Spielberg began developing Hook with Walt Disney Productions and Paramount Pictures. It was going to follow the Peter Pan storyline seen in 1924 silent film and 1953 animated Disney film. It entered pre-production in 1985, but then Spielberg abandoned the project. Howard developed the script with director Nick Castle at the time, and TriStar Pictures, where Steven Spielberg decided to come back and direct it in 1989. And it was shot almost entirely on sound stages at Sony Picture Studios in Culver City, California. Then, after the film was officially completed and advertised, Hook would be released to the public in theaters on December 11th, 1991. And it got mixed reviews from critics. So, they liked the performances, like Hoffman and Williams' performances, John Williams' musical score. You can never go wrong with John Williams. And the film's production values. But they didn't like the screenplay and they didn't like the tone. And it got 5 nominations at the 64th Academy Awards, and despite it making $300 million being a commercial success, the studio's expectations were not among that, so it didn't meet the studio's expectations. But in the years of its release, people have warmed up to the film, and it's considered to be a cult classic to everybody now. Over as the years progress, like, now people love this film. Let's get on with the good qualities in the story of Hook. In the years since its release, like, you all know Spielberg is not a fan of the film, and he was disappointed with the final result, but honestly, I actually like the final result. I like what we got here. The thing is, what I like about Hook is, the story is what's so appealing to a young audience, and a mature audience for that matter. The sensitive undertones of a celebrated story spark much joy and heartfelt moments, especially the what if factual story is really adventurous, and this story really stems from the original, and it's brilliant. I like it's more of an aftermath story and not another adaptation of the story again. It's a story of love, family, and identity, and these 3 elements really resonate with a lot of audiences. And from a standpoint, Spielberg always still triumphs with this film. Like it's for the purpose of entertaining younger audiences, so it really fulfills the intentions and more. And of course, a lot of the credit also goes to John Williams with the terrific score he gives. His absolutely stunning score really supports the story's tenderness here. And and once the flying sequence does happen near the end of the film, it's very thrilling, and it really makes you get up and really feel proud of the results. The performances are very stunning and convincing. Like, Robin Williams really encompasses both the comedic and dramatic skills towards his full-blood performance. I mean, his character does kind of start off unlikable at first, but as that story progresses, his character gets better. Right here. And honestly, playing an unlikable character for the first half actually further proved Robin Williams' talent for playing both likable and unlikable characters. And Dustin Hoffman and late Bob Hoskins, made Bob Hoskins also rest in peace, are both very superb as Captain Hook and Smee. Right here, once again, as always, Captain Hook and Smee always have such great chemistry in any Peter Pan adaptation. Well, most of the actually good Peter Pan adaptations, that is, where, in kind of a way, where Smee is the idiot, though, but Captain Hook never really abuses him, per se, and actually gets along with him pretty well. Here, they have some, and even at one point when Smee tries to stop Hook from committing suicide, and, I really like these two on screen together. I think they make a good villain duo. Hoffman and Leigh Hoskins really nailed the roles here. And it's kind of sad it's one of Spielberg's most overlooked films, because it really holds promise of warmth to the viewers, and almost every time I do enjoy the film, it feels really grand, in a way. And now if I want a good adaptation of the actual Pan story, I can watch the 2003 film. For the actual Pan story that we are familiar with. That's the version I like. So how do we start off the movie? So Peter Pan is now named Peter Banning. He's this workaholic lawyer that's fixated on success. He has a strained relationship with his wife and their children, 7-year-old Maggie, 11-year-old Jack. And due to his constant absence of broken promises, and in the first scene, he attends his daughter's school play of Peter Pan, but he ends up missing his son's baseball game, because he's too busy with work. And his son doesn't really get along with him well. because of that. And he even draws a drawing where their plane explodes, and not Jack. Peter's parachute didn't activate in time on the drawing. And so during Christmas, the family goes to London to visit Wendy Darling, Moria's grandmother, who had cared for Peter as an orphan in this version. So when eventually, though, Peter loses his temper with the children because they're interrupting a work call, Moria is just mad at him and fed up of his constant work behavior. Reminds him how fleeting their time with the children is. And so Peter and Moria go to this dinner that's honoring Wendy's work with orphans, and the children then stay home with their old friend Toodles and housekeeper Liza. And then one night, well, you don't see it on screen, but Captain Hook then breaks into their house and kidnaps both the children. And Peter Moore discovers when they return from the event, and the Captain Hook leaves a note for Peter. And so Wendy realizes this and then urges Peter to return to Neverland and rescue his children because that's when you know he's Peter Pan, all grown up. But Peter has no memory of his childhood and does not believe her until Tinkerbell arrives and flies into Neverland. And in this version, I do like they actually kind of make Tinkerbell talk in this version, because as you all know in the actual story, Tinkerbell's this mute fairy who kind of expresses her emotions through facial expressions or antics. This version of her actually talks. So Tinkerbell flies into Neverland, and at the pirate town, this is when you meet Captain Hook, and he's pretty much prepping his pirates for war. And he sees this one pirate, played by Glenn Close, ironically, actually bidded against that Bring Back Peter Pan would fail. And so Hook puts him in the Boo Box, which the Boo Box is where they put a pirate in there, and they pretty much put 2 scorpions in the box with them. And yeah, the pirate off screen is very likely stunned to death by the scorpions. Then Peter officially after that meets Hook, but fails to recognize his once rival, and so Hook challenges Peter to fly and save his children, but Peter's lost the ability to fly and fails, and originally at the time Hook orders his execution, but Tinkerbell convinces him to give 3 days to train Peter for their final battle so that Hook can have that war he wants, and so he reluctantly agrees, so he can be remembered as an actually good pirate, as a good pirate. And Spieldberg has great performances out of his cast. Julie Roberts, I think, is good as Tinkerbell. The late Maggie Smith, may she rest in peace, is also good as Wendy in this version. And of course, but I think Ron Williams is good as Peter. But to me, the cast member that really shines in the film is easily Dustin Hoffman. Like, Captain Hook is like one of those roles where the actor can really just feast the scenery and go to town with it. And it's impossible to overact in it. And that's a role you can see Dustin Hoffman really enjoying playing. And really just having the time of his life playing this role. This Captain Hook is entertaining, this Captain Hook is villainous, and, this Captain Hook is actually a likable villain. If you're like, because his scenes with Jack the son, are actually in a way kind of touching, to the point where you kind of forget that this guy's technically trying to corrupt Jack. This guy's still technically the bad guy. You kind of forget that in those moments, and I like some of his scenes with Smee as well. And Ron Williams still does have his innings as well. You see him trying to remember his past as Peter Pan, has to get back into his Pan-like behavior in order to save his kids and defeat Captain Hook. As to why he left Neverland, why he never ever left Neverland. Right there, and apparently, it's something, because of something that happens to him that kind of happens to all young men at some point in their lives, and the scene where Peter's training with the Lost Boys is another good scene, and the food fight, because he's kind of getting his inner child back in those moments, and those scenes are also enjoyable to watch. The Lost Boys are awesome in this film. There's still a lot of humor. And so after Peter is saved from drowning because one part accidentally knocks him off the plank, Peter gets brought to the Lost Boys' hideout, and this kid named Rufio is now leading them. At first, they're excited that Pan's back, but they don't, because he's all grown up, they don't recognize him. when he tells him he's a lawyer, like, kill the lawyer, and when he tries to look for a grown-up, and Rufio then tells him the only grown-ups here are pirates. So they mock him, but then of course the group eventually does recognize him, and so they begin training Peter. Well, because Tinkerbell tells them that it is Peter, but so they begin training Peter, and he has to abandon his uptight adult demeanor and embrace his imagination. So when it get back to Hook, and Smee suggests to Hook that he should turn Peter's children against him. Get his children on their side. Maggie doesn't fall, so he teaches the two children the school class on why children hate their parents. At one part, they only tell you stories to shut you up. Which I admit, that's such a funny line. I'm not gonna lie. That line got a chuckle out of me. But Maggie doesn't fall for it. She easily is unable to be corrupted by it, but Jack was the one who was the most affected by Peter's promises and failed to save them. So Hook is able to corrupt him. And in that moment, and you kind of forget Hook's the villain, because in a way, like, Hook actually does have some good scenes with Jack. In a way, like, where he kind of mock comforts him when he's sad about, like, when his dad failed his promises. Like, that's another great moment right here. Like, those are scenes where you kind of forget that Hook's kind of supposed to be the bad guy, and he's kind of trying to corrupt Jack in those moments. But it's still a good moment with the villain here. You kind of see, even though it's fake, like, I like you have a bit of a soft side with this villain here. And so after a bit of training, Peter is infiltrating the pirate town, and he sees Jack playing a baseball game that's organized by Hook, who's taken on this father role, and Peter's devastated because he remembers all the games he missed, and he's now starting to lose his son because of that, because of all his obsession with work. And at one point, though, one pirate does cheat, and then they try to shoot that pirate, and Hook's like, no, we're playing the game Jack's way, put your weapons away. Or some pirates have the sign supposed to say home run Jack, but they spell it as run home Jack, and at first Jack is contemplating it, like, it's backwards, go around. And then Jack kind of snaps back into playing the game, so Peter's, though devastated, goes back to the Lost Boys camp with renewed determination, and his shadow leads him to the ruins of Wendy's house. And this is where he starts to remember his past, in another very emotional moment. He was an infant in the early 1900s, and was talking about what he'd do when he'd grow up, and you find out the reason why this version of Peter Pan didn't want to grow up is because he feared, because eventually at some point in our lives when we grow up and we get old, we all eventually have to die. And that's what Peter feared. So he ran away. Then Tinkerbell found him, brought him to Neverland, and he got lonely, wanted to go back to his family, but they had a new child and assumed they forgot about him, so he was dejected. And then Peter met Wendy, who fell in love with him, but then she aged and she started a family. And Peter then fell for her granddaughter, Maura, and remained with her. And he remembers Jack's birth was the happiest memory he had, and so that's how Peter regains his powers and is able to fly. But Tinkerbell is heartbroken and confesses her love to Peter, which I will admit, that's a little bit of a corny moment. But without that bit right there, like, this is actually easily the most emotional scene of the film, where you see Peter's past. And another thing, like, this scene's much more emotional now after Robin Williams' death. Like, this scene right here where you learn of Peter's past, why he feared growing up, and then when he got lonely after some time in Neverland, he wanted to go back to his parents, but he assumes that they moved on from him, and then he felt sad and lonely. But then he met Wendy, but then Wendy got married, but then Wendy had a granddaughter. Right there, and I will admit that's kind of a beautiful moment, and he regains his powers because he remembers the moment Jack being born was the best moment of his life. A little bit of artificiality that's portrayed here really gives the quaint, charming quality here, and it doesn't even look that fake. Like, it's Kind of a step up from like all the green screen backdrops that we get in today's movies. And some people do complain about Julia Roberts as Tinkerbell, but I disagree. I thought she did good as Tinkerbell. She's not the strongest part of the movie, but I like that they give Tink some actual emotional depth. And I actually like they make Tinkerbell talk here and give her more of a personality and kind of make her feel more of a character. And it is a children's movie, but so it is kind of meant to be colorful, but Spielberg really does give the viewer the same chance that Peter Bunny really has in the film. Try to get rid of being that adult. Like, grow down and enjoy being a happy kid. And that's another thing. This movie does a great idea. I love the concept of Peter Pan growing to be a husband and father. This movie itself really deals with the aspects of our main character, that Peter is now hooked to his life's work and doesn't believe in fairy tales anymore, like he once did. When he tells him the truth, Peter wonders what he believes he could be out of his mind. But then he does believe. He needs to know more about himself, but realizes what his happy thoughts were. And finally able to become a good father. So Peter, he starts off kind of selfish at first, but he develops as a character. And has a good message, like, there's nothing wrong with work, but don't push your family away. Family is important, and family comes first. Hook is really about emotions and a specific of what happens and why. It's about rediscovering your past self, the place between dreams, a reality that Tinkerbell mentions. It's about jubilation, finding your happy thoughts, and reconnecting with loved ones, and reassessing your own life. So, it's the next day after Peter's regained his memories. Peter and the Lost Boys then go to attack Hook and the pirates. Peter's able to successfully rescue Maggie while he tries getting Jack to go home with him, but Jack is now corrupted by Hook by this point and says that he is home. But not yet, but hope is not lost yet. He rescues Maggie, but one pirate then fights him, and Rufio fights Hook, but he gets fatally wounded in a duel with Hook, and he witnesses Rufio's dying wish for a father like Peter. And right there, eventually, Jack then decides that he's going back to his real father, is able to get out of Captain Hook's corruption, and he reconciles with Peter. And so, after that, Peter decides to leave Neverland with his children, but it's clear Hook makes it clear that he wants a final battle, and he is going to always be around to haunt Peter's life, no matter where he goes. It was going to always stalk Peter's other descendants if denied. So, Tinkerbell and the Lost Boys help Peter, and for a while they have a bit of an epic sword fight, and Peter subdues Hook, and Hook feigns surrender right there because, and even Maggie tells him, "You need a mom." And so Hook tries to stab, but when Hook fakes surrender, he then tries to stab Peter, but he misses, and he impales a crocodile that once ate his hand that Hook had killed earlier. And the Lost Boys also help with bringing out these clocks to scare Hook. Because remember, Captain Hook's afraid of clocks, and especially because clocks are associated with that alligator that tries to come after him. But the crocodile then appears to come to life, and it topples over, and it consumes Hook. Which, I'm going to admit, that defeat was kind of a little weird, to be fair, because the crocodile's dead, and how in the world is it going to come back to life if it's stuffed and dead? It really doesn't make a lot of sense, but Captain Hook is gone, and Tinkerbell returns Jack and Maggie home, and Peter bids farewell to the Lost Boys, and one of the Lost Boys thought Bud is their new leader. And he gives Peter a bag of marbles that belongs to Toodles, this once former Lost Boy. And the runtime of this movie, this plot seems simple, but the runtime's actually over 2 hours, but I wasn't bored. It really keeps going with the story. I think the 2 hours is actually kind of perfect. This music, especially with the John Williams' music right there, and there's moments that, especially some of the more emotional moments, like Peter rediscovering his past, and Peter crying tears for every happy thought. You also get a subplot there with Dustin Hoffman's funny portrayal as Hook. He hates the pirates who surround him, but they're oblivious to that. He takes his insults as merely playful. He's kind of in a way also facing midlife crisis. He was this proud, successful pirate with no great enemy to battle. So he needs an enemy to battle because there's no fun without an enemy. So he enjoys the sport of a good fight, and so he seeks his old nemesis Peter for that. And Dustin Hoffman was perfect for the role. He He's having a blast playing Captain Hook. You can definitely see it in his performance. I think he's easily the best character. I like Peter in this film, but I think Hook is easily the best character of the movie. I would have to say that. I like both the protagonist and villain, but I have to say this is a film where I think the villain is the number one best character of the movie. Like, John Williams does well in capturing the feelings of loss and sadness that surround the protagonist's mysterious and forgotten childhood. And the child performances are also a pretty high standard. Like, Meg and Jack do come across as real. Like, they're not robotic and they're not really bratty. They have mixed emotions. Like, more the daughter, because the parents do kind of pay more attention a little more to her because, so the daughter's more pure, loving her parents and wants to be saved, and is full of hope and strongly dislikes Hook and refuses to be corrupt by him, but Jack was the one who was the most affected by his father's broken promises, so he's easily able to get corrupted by Hook quick. He comes close to him, but then at the end he decides to go back to his dad. He goes through several changes of hearts, and many of those are actually pretty moving. So, now we get on with the finale. So, after Peter and the kids return to London, Peter awakens in London, Tinkerbell bids him goodbye, and you see a brief cameo from Smee again on the fountain, and Peter now successfully changed from his journey. He reunites with his family and discards his work phone for good. He gives the bag to Toodles, and that sprinkles some pixie dust on himself, and he flies off to Neverland. And Wendy observes Peter adventures are over, but Peter replies, like, to live would be an awfully big adventure, and that's how Hook wonderfully ends. Hook is killed off for real in kind of a weird, corny way, but Peter's children are saved, Rufio is sadly dead, and Peter leaves Neverland for good. He's never going to come back, but he's not going to forget the Lost Boys, and he's now going to finally be a good father to his children. So it beautifully ends right there. It was a perfect way to end this movie. Now, do I have any bad qualities with Hook? Well, what would I say? I would probably say, if I had a bad quality, I would say that Peter does start off a little bit unlikable when you kind of first meet him. Like, some of the scenes with his son in the beginning kind of do almost make him a bit of an unlikable character when you first meet him. Like, this guy that's trying to be, like, good to his son, but there's scenes where he's kind of just yelling at his son way too much. But of course he does go through character development. He does realize his mistakes and realizes what he's done. And he does go through character developments. And some of I think the corny part of the flashback scene is when Tinkerbell then kind of turns human-sized. So, which was kind of a bit of an awkward, corny way, and trying to give a bit of a love relationship with Tinkerbell and Peter in this film, like, that came off as kind of a little corny as well. But I still like Tinkerbell in this film. I like she gets more of a personality. I like she actually talks. And with Captain Hook's defeat, yeah, I know, the crocodile's the one that kills Captain Hook, but the huge stuffed dead crocodile that falls on Hook at the end, I don't think that was really a good defeat for him. Because the mouth doesn't really look like it's opening, but you hear a burp from the stuffed crocodile, and you just don't see him. He just kind of vanishes like magic. Like, they're like, when it falls on him, it doesn't even look like it's eating him. Like, that crocodile's supposed to be dead. And of course, Smee at the end kind of makes... Smee appearing for a brief bit at the end kind of really makes no sense. But, other than those, this to me is the best Peter Pan film, always in my eyes. So in the end, Hook is definitely worth watching and buying for Peter Pan fans that want a criminally underrated Peter Pan film and want to see one of Spielberg's most underrated films. Anyways, that's it for my review of Hook. You're wondering how I'm going to rank Hook. Here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you want to watch one of Spielberg's most underrated films, one of the best live-action Pan films out there, then I would totally watch it by Hook for your collection, no doubt. If we're not going to rank Hook, I'm going to give Hook a 9 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up my review for Hook. I will put this back with my other VHSs after I finish filming, but I gotta go get on with rewatching for the next review. And this review is going to be for, well, my next review is going to be Casper, so I got to get on with watching that now. But until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, and don't forget to subscribe to Don G. Corleone.